We are in the middle of a war, and I need your help to win it.
Seems fairly idyllic for wartime.
No one knows it's happened yet, or that it's already been lost.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Bring yourself back online. This is going to be my Westworld Season 3 Episode 2 video. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. There's a bunch of Easter eggs, couple big cameo scenes too. Careful for spoilers. If you have not seen the episode yet, we'll do top 10 WTF and Easter eggs as we go along. Starting with number 10. Welcome to Warworld. So the episode begins with Maeve looking out on the Warworld park scene. It takes her a while to figure out what's going on, but they tried to play a lot of the Season 1, Season 2 tropes in a really funny, different way this time. A simulation within a simulation. Boom, mind blown. You notice a lot of funny things during this first loop. She's not sure why she knows how to speak German, but we know that she does have special powers. But later, when she and Hector are running out and trying to escape the Germans, she finds out that her powers aren't working. Takes her a little while to find out why, but they explain it by the end of the episode. Even though this wound up being a fake version of the park because it's an artificial construct and them trying to get information out of her, they were trying to base it on the real version of Warworld. So there is a real Warworld within the larger park system. Remember, there's many different parks. We haven't seen them all yet. We saw 2 new ones during this episode. Number 9, welcome back to Westworld, Bernard. The funny thing about the way he enters the park, we finally get to see what it actually looks like on the outside when someone physically travels to Westworld, because we've only seen them come in on the train before in the Westworld park. You have to remember that it's actually a bunch of different islands within the South China Sea. So if you wondered why there was so much China stuff going on in last week's episode, that's because this is where the park is located within the world. We've seen them looking out over the coast, but we've never actually seen the outer rim, so you just see these giant breakers here with systems that'll look like they're built to protect the park. The place that he walks in through, though, is also really important, because this is the same town from the end of Season 1 where Dolores fully traversed the maze and achieved full consciousness. The town itself is built to be a replica of the original Westworld park from years ago when Ford was first building the host, and they were first trying to figure out what Westworld would be before they started building the other parks. There's still a lot of places that we haven't seen in the park yet, but we do go back to that place from Season 1 where they store all the dead hosts. This is actually the original entryway where guests would arrive at Westworld when they were first building the park. Just meant to be more Easter eggs for the Westworld movies if you haven't seen those movies in a while. Number 8, welcome back Sizemore. So Maeve is still kind of going through her first version of the loop, figuring out that this is a fake reality construct. Some of you may have figured out what was going on before they revealed it within the episode, because you start to notice some inconsistencies, like why didn't these old guards recognize her? Because this was the guard that helped her last time. What's going on here? Does he not like her anymore? Does he not want to have anything to do with this? You don't really notice that Sizemore is fake until he starts laying it on real thick, because he was famous for telling really gaudy, bad stories. So once they hit the forge, that's when it becomes really obvious. But number 7, Bernard finds Ashley in Ford's secret lab. He goes back to the secret underground lair. You see all the other copies of Bernard that we saw last season when they revealed that he was a host, but then you find out that Ashley is also secretly been a host. That is one of the big fan theories that's been happening since Season 1, just because of the way they use the character. They kind of implied that he was a host last season, but they never fully, officially answered the question until now. So number 6, Ashley is a host. He reveals what his core programming was. Ford created him to protect Bernard and allow him to escape the park and then cover up all the evidence, then terminate himself. So it was actually built into his programming that he was supposed to destroy himself. Later they have that funny moment where Bernard changes his programming again to protect him. So new core programming, he's going to be going out into the real world as they try to stop Dolores. If you needed my help, you could have just asked, so it is funny that Ashley knows that he's been reprogrammed. Bernard also raises the question about why Dolores brought him back. He thinks it's because Dolores feels like she needs some checks and balances, so maybe she brought him back to keep her from crossing the line, but maybe it's part of some bigger plan that she has. So number 5, Sizemore and the Forge are revealed as fakes, as the reality slowly starts to crumble because Maeve starts taxing him too much. They explain this later when she gives them the crazy math problem. The version of Sizemore that they built for this construct is only built to do a couple things, so the more Maeve asks of him, more to question his reality, the more the construct starts to break down. So she's inside a fake reality because the Westworld people or someone is trying to examine her. You don't find out to the end of the episode why she was inside this construct. But they do remind you that Dolores is the only person who knows the coordinates of the forge, all that information with the backups of the hosts and the people that were stored. That's where Dolores sent Teddy at the end of last season, so Dolores wants to keep that safe because she still does care about Teddy. Once Maeve figures out that Sizemore is fake, she tells a couple good jokes about him too, like, "We know this is fake because Sizemore was only obsessed with himself, like look at all these pictures of me, he would have never cared about me that much." So number 4, Maeve breaks the matrix with math. Basically, she just gives them a really, really difficult math problem to solve that eventually starts compounding and acts like this sort of black hole of processing power that just sucks in all the other fake texts from that reality. It gets pretty funny once they start the ball rolling, and then she also puts all the maps inside the host pockets before they go back for another loop so that she can break the simulation even more by taxing its processing power. We're all traitors. Number 3 was that big, obvious Game of Thrones cameo scene.
These techs are just waiting to see if they get laid off.
Got a buyer.
What?
Some startup in Costa Rica.
How the fuck you can get that to Costa Rica?
In pieces, man.
So I talked about this in my last video. It was highly publicized that the Game of Thrones producers Dan and Dave would have a cameo during Westworld as Tex. We just didn't know exactly when it was going to happen. The Westworld producers explained that what they wanted to do is because this is meant to be medieval world that Bernard and Ashley are walking through, which is also from the Westworld movies, but this is like Westworld playing it as if their medieval world is based on the world of A Song of Ice and Fire. I'm sure within the world of Westworld, they paid millions and millions of license fees to the estate of George R. R. Martin to get the rights to those. The Westworld producers said the reason why it was Dan and Dave that cameoed as Westworld Tex is because they wanted to use the Drogon character model, so it's literally like they copy-pasted Drogon from Game of Thrones into Westworld. It's the exact same character model, but because it's HBO technically owns those assets, so it's really easy for them to clear something like that. If you listen really carefully, you can actually hear them talking to each other about finding a buyer off an island in Costa Rica for the dragon that they created. That's a big Jurassic Park reference. You could also think of it as a Jurassic World reference. You don't really get a good look at their names, but they're actually credited as Dan and Dave. So within the world of Westworld, these two techs are named Dave and Dan. They created a dragon, and they're going to be selling it to Richard Hammond sometime soon. Jurassic Park, you'll all remember, is also a Michael Crichton book. So Michael Crichton wrote Westworld. He also wrote Jurassic Park. So they're just doing larger Michael Crichton Easter eggs here. You guys can let me know whether you like this or whether you didn't like it. Some people just felt like it was really on the nose. But obviously, back when Westworld first debuted, a lot of people were like, wouldn't it be cool if there was a Game of Thrones world? But that was a couple of years ago, so I haven't really thought about that since then. Number 2, Maeve escapes the simulation within a simulation by hacking another robot. So the cool thing about this is that you actually get to see through the robot's perspective, so it's almost like you're playing some kind of video game, just watching it assess threats as it just rips into riot mode, takes her cortex, and just busts through all those guards. The way the robot goes out also answers some questions about what's going on with that final scene when she meets Serac, too. So number 1, obviously, probably one of the biggest parts of the episode, Maeve meets Serac, the creator of Rehoboam. Sort of like an alternate version of Ford, who created this giant machine to lead humanity forward and literally create the future, as he says it. It's our job to create the future. A prophet only predicts it. We create it. You all probably recognize Vincent Cassel. I've never seen a movie or a TV show with him in it where he doesn't play some really arrogant, smart person who just talks over people. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to him this season. The way he's playing the character is that he seems like he wants to help humanity, but there's this really sinister overtone to it, like he's controlling humanity. He knows what's best, so he's going to use this machine to help lead humanity forward. The reason why I think he's able to freeze Maeve in her tracks is because, remember, when we saw the robot go down and her cortex just rolled into the grass, Serac would have been the person to put her cortex in a new physical body, so he could have added special code to protect himself into that body that he put her in. So whatever he did to change her, he now has a failsafe button to protect himself, which does seem like it's prudent, given that she tries to kill him immediately. But if you don't remember from last week's episode, the way they sort of establish him inside the Insight company is that he's one of the founders, kind of like Ford is one of the founders of Westworld. When his business partner died and left his assets to his son, who we met in last week's episode, the person that Dolores was trying to pull a fast one on, he locked Liam out, so he's the only one that has access to Rehoboam, and he says that it's not working right anymore, and it's because of what Dolores is doing. But so far we don't really know what's going on, only that he says there will be no future if they continue on their path. And the whole thing about the Rehoboam system is that it's designed to analyze the future based on predicting people's behaviors. So it's sort of like the way Doctor Strange was using the Time Stone during Avengers Infinity War to analyze millions and millions of different possible futures. Rehoboam does that, but it's actually analyzing the potential actions of all the other people that it's plugged into or connected to through their devices or through their systems. They used last week's episode to show you how humanity relies on Insight's software and systems so much that Rehoboam is literally connected and governing all the people as if they themselves were hosts trapped inside a simulation, and Rehoboam is the thing that's giving them their marching orders, telling them what to do, giving them suggestions. Maybe you should do this instead of that. So that's why Serac comes off as sort of a sinister figure the same way that Ford does. So I'll be interested to see how they position him in the series versus Ford, because Ford actually seemed like he eventually wanted to help everyone and really did want to make things better. So everyone, post all your predictions in the comments below and let me know if you think that Serac is going to wind up being an evil character or a good character that will try to help them. Episode 3 will post next week, so as long as you have alerts enabled for my channel, you should see that video when I post it. Everyone click here for my Westworld Episode 1 video, and click here for my brand new Marvel Deadpool 3 video. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe. I'll see you guys tonight.